This is breaking news.
And some of our federal elected officials wanted to be here and cannot be here. But we are in the community of Congressman Jerry Nadler, who is very excited about today. And we're also joined by Lisa Bova Hyatt, who was the interim CEO at the New York City Housing Authority. Lisa, just wave here. And our guest presenter traveled from DC this morning, but she is no stranger to New York. In the months following Hurricane Sandy, she served as our Chief Operating Officer and Acting Executive Director of the Federal Hurricane Sandy Rebuilding Task Force, coordinating the efforts of numerous federal agencies to help rebuild after one of the most costliest storms to touch the land in the United States. She formed and facilitated multiple public-private partnerships, including the award-winning Rebuild by Design initiative and the National Disaster Resilience Competition. Later, she became HUD's Community Planning and Development Deputy Assistant Secretary for grant programs, where she oversaw affordable housing and community development programs, including the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is known as CDBG, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, the Housing Trust Fund, and the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, as well as disaster recovery funds. Today, she serves as HUD's Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Community Planning and Development, managing an annual budget of more than $10 billion and a staff of 900 people. In this role, she oversees the administration of federal financial assistance to assist communities in ending homelessness, creating and preserving housing affordable for people of the most modest means, and strengthening local economies and recovering from other mitigating disasters. So please, everyone, for this big announcement this morning, please welcome Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary Marion McFadden.
Thank you, Madam R.A. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Glad to see so many people turning out for what I think is going to be a very good day. I want to take this opportunity to highlight the great work that the New York City Continuum of Care, the City of New York, nonprofit organizations, service providers, and other partners are doing to address homelessness. Alika mentioned my work on Hurricane Sandy. I also helped with 9/11 recovery, and I'm proud to have even a small part in recovering from the homelessness crisis, and to partner with those of you who are working to address it with the urgency that it requires. Thank you especially to Breaking Ground for hosting us this morning. This building is incredible. I can't wait to get my tour later. Once a neglected hotel, it's now providing affordable housing for 415 people, including low-income people, people formerly experiencing homelessness, and people living with HIV and AIDS. So while I can't say that I've seen very much of the building, I'll say I already love what you've done with the place. It's incredible. As many of you know, last year on a single night across the country, more than 582,500 people were experiencing homelessness. In New York, every night there are 62,000 people experiencing homelessness. Nationwide, 40% of those people are unsheltered, so they're sleeping in cars, on the street, in parks, in tents and encampments, and that is just not how we want our country to be. And so partnerships between the federal government, local government, and nonprofit organizations are so critical. Everyone should have access to safe, stable, affordable housing. Between 2020 and 2022, we saw unsheltered homelessness increase by 3.4%. That is absolutely unacceptable, but we know how to solve it. It is solvable. So I'm super encouraged to be here with you today. I'm very excited to be bringing some good news on behalf of HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge. Earlier this year, we announced the first round of funding under a special notice of funding opportunity for unsheltered and rural homelessness. I'm pleased to say that a second round of awards is being made across the country today. Nationwide, HUD is announcing $171 million in awards to continuums of care, or COCs, for a combined total between round one and round two of more than $485 million to address homelessness. We're also doing something completely new. For the first time, we are pairing those special awards of homelessness dollars with a special allocation of housing choice vouchers, the stability vouchers. They have a focus on survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, and veterans. We see that to end homelessness, public housing authorities, the continuum of care, and local community leaders have to work in tandem, and we were delighted to see that happening all over the country. Through the special notice of funding opportunity, the maximum award was $60 million. The New York City Continuum of Care is receiving $60 million. I'm happy to hear that even in New York, $60 million is a big deal. Okay, the good news doesn't end there, because in addition to the $60 million, New York City Housing Authority will be invited to accept 377 of these stability vouchers, and HPD will be invited to accept 235. Put together, these grants will provide permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, street outreach, and other activities benefiting individuals and families who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. The collaboration between your COC and PHAs is really a shining example of how, when we collaborate to deploy comprehensive and creative solutions, together we can make a huge impact in reducing and ultimately ending homelessness. New York City's Continuum of Care is coordinating with rental owners, real estate agents, and property managers to identify and lease apartments to New Yorkers experiencing homelessness through tenant-based rental assistance. This is a very powerful method, since we see in some parts of the country people have a really hard time using their vouchers. So getting ahead of that problem is an excellent approach. The COC has developed sizable lists of residential landlords across all the boroughs, integrating data from several city agencies, including the New York City Department of HPD, Department of Buildings, and the Department of Environmental Protections. I'm so pleased to hear that the NYC COC's current strategy puts housing first. A fantastic example of this is New York City's current implementation of a unique street-to-home pilot. The pilot is a collaboration between New York City Department of Social Services, Human Resources Administration, Department of Homeless Services, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and Volunteers of America, Greater New York. This pilot is providing a pathway for people experiencing unsheltered homelessness to move from sleeping on the street directly into permanent housing. The $60 million awarded today is going to enable the Continuum of Care and its partners to expand resources for addressing unsheltered homelessness, including the creation of a centralized complex care coordination unit to connect unsheltered homeless people to outreach teams, shelters, healthcare providers, and others to help them successfully navigate services and get into housing once and for all. We all know that healthcare and supportive services are essential to a housing-first approach to providing homelessness assistance. New York City's plan illustrates the importance of partnerships with organizations like New York City Health and Hospitals, Care for the Homeless, and Genian Medical Care. For individuals who don't have access to sheltered housing, these partnerships will improve and increase access to healthcare and offer life-saving services. We're grateful to the members of the New York City Continuum of Care and all of the continuums of care across the country who are working day in and day out to provide housing and services for people experiencing homelessness. From the bottom of my heart, congratulations, job well done. Y'all
see all those zeros over there? Yes, $60 million. So the next person that we're going to hear from is a woman that is not just the Chief Housing Officer for the City of New York, but Jessica Katz. She will wake up and breathe housing on every single level. It's interesting. Some years ago, we traveled out of the country to look at how other organizations and municipalities around the world are housing their families and what they're doing, to be able to bring that information back to New York City for some real lessons learned. And that was before your role in this position. And so, but when I started at HUD, Jessica said, "Oh, Alika, I'm so glad you're there, because there are some real issues that we have with y'all right now." And every single day, she would not only just fight for everyday New Yorkers, but make sure that the systems that are in place, the bureaucracies, are dealt with, and making sure that those administrative burdens that we place on just organizations and municipalities are broken down. And so, Jessica, thank you just for your advocacy. So the next person you will hear from is Jessica Katz, the Chief Housing Officer of the City of New York, representing our very own Mayor Adams.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Jessica Katz. I'm the Chief Housing Officer for New York City, and I'm so excited to be here today with HUD Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary Marion McFadden and Regional Administrator Alika Ampry-Samuel to announce this funding for unsheltered homelessness. We could not be at a more special location. The Prince